But I'm sure we can show Dad that we're up to it. If we work hard, I know he'll come around in no time.
I'll be your savior.
The police in Central City have requested our help with the case.
You two are to gather information, no heroics. Looks like we'll have to split up.
Jin here. Do you copy? It sounds like a gate just opened up not far from you two.
We've notified the captain. We're on our way there too. See you soon. Try and stay out of trouble, okay?
Roger that. We're heading to the gate now. So that Chimera wasn't the target after all. Come on, let's get going. We can't let anyone else get redshifted. Hold up! We can't leave that gate wide open like that. The Legion should be able to close it up quick. Let's try it out.
Chimeras, gates, legions, and more. Welcome to another episode of our playthrough for Astral Chain, one of the newer games out on Nintendo Switch. So as we just saw in our recap, we had just beaten, or I should say gotten through, one of our first bosses, really, now that we've had the Legion and the Legatus, and we're getting our bearings with all the tech toys that we're going to get throughout this game. So this is still part of the first mission, really, the first field mission that we've had. There's still some tutorial elements to it, as you just noticed, right? We just learned that we have the ability to chain bind those gates, so we can close them to prevent other chimeras coming in from the other dimension. And we're also finding out that we should be able to get these other legions later that have other specific abilities, which was teased throughout the build up to this game's release as well. So we're gonna have more than just this guy with the swords.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, hold up, someone's coming. No, don't hang up, idiot. I'll just play it cool until they leave. Oh yeah, hey, that's right, thank you. How's work treating you, huh? Oh really? Oh yeah, you don't say, huh?
Hey, I know you're busy, but see that guy over there? Do you think you could find out what he's talking?
That was one of my favorite cutscenes in the game, early part of the game. It's just so it's like intentionally bad acting from that character, obviously, because they're just trying to get away from the scene. But it was just done so well, and I love that the twins are just standing there staring at him like, are you serious right now? Yeah, so we had this in the beginning of the mission as well. Our Legion can eavesdrop because people cannot see our Legions because they are essentially tamed chimeras from the other dimension. So it looks like this guy has some illegal deliveries. Just keeping our distance here. Illegal drugs. I forgot that he blatantly just says that.
We've heard all we need to.
And so we can basically help arrest people too with the chain binds. Which, if you really think about it, that's got to be so freaky, right? Wouldn't it be scary if you're just standing there and suddenly you just get tied up by this invisible chain and you just topple over? I guess they partly faint as well. Which, I mean, you have to be tied together with quite a bit of force to just completely pass out instantly, but anyway, we're still on this trail, so we fought the, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but the King Kong-like mini-boss, and then we got notice that we have another gate opening up somewhere, so we're trying to go join Alicia and Jin. Okay, so this guy, right, his appearance, or its appearance rather, here freaked me out a little bit. I've only seen it once more later on in the game, and I am fairly convinced that this is Astral Chain's version of a treasure goblet. And I regret to inform everyone that I have yet to capture one. So it's still a mystery what it leads to, but it can only be that. I also forget to scan it, which quite frankly, I'm at the time of this recording, I'm several more hours into the game, and I still forget to scan enemies. It's just not something I'm used to. Which is funny, because I leave the iris on like all the time when I'm walking around. Well, with it being the first mission and our first time out in downtown, I just like to make sure I explore every nook and cranny, especially in games where there are items you can collect. Not collectibles. I'm pretty obsessed with those too, but I'm more so obsessed with consumables more than collectibles. Any items that are going to help me later on in the game. I love to hoard items. I love to make sure that my inventory is packed, jammed tight, so we go around looking for every supply box that could possibly exist. Which, as you can see in the background, they are highlighted orange, so this game is pretty friendly to people like me. Another blue case, as you can see with the blue circle
our days
there.
Are breaking up. We'd better stop him.
Just a quick little bind. Lasso them together. Man, even the character design I think is pretty well done. Again, it's
Really
sometimes it's a little blatant, sometimes it's a little over the top, but
right.
the fact that even officers
that
that don't have names, NPCs that don't have names, like that one was called Nervous Officer, and they made sure that the character had a stutter even just in the captions. It just gives a good vibe, I think, to the rest of the game. Right, the NPCs aren't just faceless people with masks who are just standing there waiting for the next order.
Iris, shut down.
As I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate the little things a lot more in game design and development, I think. I'm not an expert in the process of it, but as a consumer of the final product. Yeah, so there's surprisingly more supply boxes than I thought I had originally seen, so it takes us a little while to make sure we clean them all up. The supply boxes generally tend to give you temporary items for the mission, but sometimes they'll also drop codes, which are basically upgrade points that we can use later on. So honestly, you can't blame me for being obsessive about going through and finding all of them. But now we're back on the trail, trying to find this next chimera. Yeah, so as we saw earlier, I think earlier we saw Beast Legion 1, but basically there are these obstacles throughout the map, and each of them have a Legion associated with them. So that Legion has a skill or ability that lets you get past it or get rid of the obstacle. We haven't seen one for the Sword Legion that we currently own yet, but we're getting hints. These vending machines, they're so freaky sometimes.
I've got nothing to say.
But going back to the Legions, again, it's just foreshadowing that that's going to happen, which there's a famous video here on YouTube about game design and basically foreshadowing what you're going to have to do later on in the game, and how that's great game design to help players learn the game without doing blatant tutorials. And I think this does that really well, especially with the fact that these are all meant to be played again, right, at a higher difficulty, so that you can complete all the challenges if you want and get all the upgrades, I guess. So right now, not much we can do about him. We only have the Sword Legion, and we don't even know the ability for him. So we're just here on cleanup duty, clean up the streets of Red Matter.
That looks like hard work without a Legion. Let's give her a hand.
What? You gotta show me how you did that. You just moved your hand and there it went.
Magic. You gotta imagine that for the police officers that aren't part of the Neuron Force, it's probably even weirder for them than the civilians. I think the civilians in this world are probably just accepting of the fact that things are all sorts of messed up right now, but the police officers, like, they fight the aberrations because they can see them. Whoa.
I think that was our target. It grabbed a civilian. Come on, hurry.
there we go. So now we're on the chase. But yeah, the police, right? Like, they kind of know what's going on, but they clearly don't know all of it. Meanwhile, this hand is just flying around, picking up civilians.
Information, Iris, shut down.
So, you'll notice in my movement that I become really panicked, but that does not stop me from trying to make sure that I can find every single supply box. If anything, it just makes me panic a little bit more. I'm trying to figure out where I have to go, because this thing's blocked. I tried throwing my Legion at it anyway. That's how you know I was completely panicked, because I'm like, oh my gosh, this hand's flying around, picking up all these civilians, where do I go? And it was actually a really easy way out.
Looks like there were some stragglers.
And we're back in the action. So this mission, if you're watching through the entire playthrough, can feel a little bit slow, and you wouldn't be wrong. And initially, I was a little taken aback as well, because, I mean, it's a Platinum game, right? And if you played any Platinum game, you're kind of accustomed to just really, really tightly coordinated action scenes and sequences. And especially with controlling a Legion and controlling a character and having your X-Baton, which can transform, and just the aesthetic of the environment. I think I was expecting this to be the most action-packed game I've played this year, and this first mission ends up being a little slow. In hindsight, I think it was really smart design because there's so much to learn. The later missions are not like this. They have slow phases, but I think the pacing is done really well, where it gives you enough to solve some puzzles and do some investigations, catch up on the story. But once the action starts, it's not just like two guys here, one guy there. It's full on like mini missions spread throughout each chapter. So it feels a lot better. And now thinking back and looking at how panicked I was just from the music and the sequence here, I'm probably glad that it wasn't more hectic. Ah, there's the bad boy. How do we get him? So in case you skipped around a little bit, these aberrations aren't humans. They are basically red-shifted, is what they call it. So that's when they get infected by this... It's kind of weird. I don't know how to describe it, but basically they get infected from this other dimension, which is more like a data field. So they get infected by this computer virus, although they are not computers. So then they turn into these digital data zombies. But basically we're fighting our own civilians. So earlier we saw Akira kind of take that a little bit hard. Because she's out here trying to prove herself to her dad. And she wants herself and myself, the twins, to really live up to Dad's expectations and succeed in the police force. Yeah, I remember that I have all these temp meds. This game has taught me to use my temporary items quite efficiently. I used to not do that very well. So I don't do really well with any type of like timed missions or save the civilian missions. It just freaks me out. I think it's just too much responsibility.
Look out! Here comes more.
And especially because I haven't fully grasped the combat here yet. You see me just spamming buttons. It still looks really cool because the game is really pretty, but compared to my action later on, it's quite weak. I do figure out that I want to do some chain binds. Those are the stunts that we learned in the training earlier. Same thing we do with gates. There's some really cool combos later on that you can do with chain binds, so keep an eye out for those. Yeah, honestly, my playing this first mission does not do Astral Chain justice. If anything, it gives you an expectation of what you can potentially expect if you're not that amazing at fighting games or any similar action type games. But I promise it gets better. It feels a lot better too if you're the one playing. Oh no, that one civilian. I'm so busy trying to do more chain binds. This is like the one thing I know how to do. Yeah, I tried to get the chain counter there by calling up my Legion, but you have to line the chain up perfectly perpendicular, I think, to their charge, so I missed that one. Yeah, you can see I'm like trying to do a chain bind again. I just get really stuck on one move because that's the only cool thing I know how to do. But that aberration, or I guess that's technically a Chimera. So that Chimera was stuck up against the fence. So you can't always do it. You need some space. I get a rank C. Honestly, my ranks are never that good. Sometimes they're kind of random because certain fights I feel like I did nothing and I end up getting S's. And then other ones I feel like I did everything in my arsenal and I get a D. So I'm not entirely sure on how that works.
This does not look good. But there could be more survivors out there. I'll stay here with them. I'll catch up with you later.
Alright, so we are able to defend this patio. And collect some items. So these are dropped items, which I don't think it's possible for them to ever be temporary items. There's some salvage items, there's some other codes and consumables that we can pick up.
Display. Iris, shut down.
Oh my goodness, there's a cat there. Spoiler alert. I won't say anymore. We'll find out about the cats later. Now I'm kind of glad that I'm re-recording this.
Iris, startup. Iris, shut down.
There wasn't actually much to do there. I was just being really, really thorough with my iris scan.
Can you hear me? I'm picking up a really strong signal near your location.
Iris, startup.
Keep your guard up, okay?
Yeah, let's go fight the boss.
Information display.
You know it's the boss because that's pretty much what Olive just said.
Iris, shut down.
And the location is very clearly a boss fight.
Iris, shut down.
I'm trying to like figure out how far I need to go in to activate the fight. Oof. Stuck the landing. 10 out of 10. Alright, so, but you didn't see that coming. We thought the boss fight was going to be in that back alley / playground. But no, we're actually going to be in this other dimension. Also, this boss's name is Enceladus. And I'm trying to figure out if it was intentional that it sounds like enchilada. I honestly can't help but think about enchiladas when I hear the name. Anyway, clearly much larger in size than the boss we fought earlier. And very beefy too. Our damage is really low. Yeah, so we're caught in this weird force field. Turns out our legions can go through it. So the patterns are becoming pretty clear. Again, a really good boss design because it's tough and it's intimidating, but his patterns are, or its patterns, we have no idea if it has a gender. Its patterns are slow enough that we can figure it out without too much pressure. I also just now remember that we can turn on the iris to scan chimeras so that we see their health bar. So if you've been wondering, there are health bars in this game. You just have to scan them really quick. It doesn't even have to be that long. To be honest, I don't think I ever do it again after this fight because I keep forgetting. But maybe I should now that I've rewatched this. So he goes back to the chains, which there's the chain counter. Sometimes the camera angle gets a little wonky and you end up standing in the line of sight, but generally the chain counters are pretty forgiving. I forget if I mentioned this before, but you can get crits if you hit them from behind or on the head. So every time you get a stun, you want to position yourself, and your legion applies to your legion as well, either behind them or where their head is so that you can get some crits. So this guy's very, very beefy. Yeah, so that's a good instance of me getting tricked by the camera angle a little bit. And thinking that I was going to get the counter, but I was standing too close. Also, the guy's just huge. Yeah, the boss is super beefy. Yeah, has some new moves. We saw the whirlwind earlier, and now we got some meteors coming down. So, again, multiple phases, just slowly introduced. Now his hand turns into a gun. And there's me mispressing my D-pad again for a little bit. And honestly, I mean, you can see from the health bar, there's quite a bit left in this boss fight. We've mentioned most of the things I wanted to cover by being introduced to this first big boss of the game. So we're going to watch the rest of it, and I'll be back at the end. Man, a lot happened in the past couple minutes, but we're pretty close. starting to get a little antsy because I see the health bar going so low. And I've been pretty stressed out this entire fight. But we've gotten a little bit better. Well, except in dodging some of those moves, but... Alright, boss is going berserk. Just a sliver of health left. See a couple more hits. And as we slide in stylishly for the last couple hits against the boss, that's going to be it for this episode. If you like what you saw, don't forget to leave a comment below, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. When we come back, we'll be back with more Astral Chain.